This is a short video that's going to go over classroom routines, what they are, how to set them up, and hopefully give you some ideas of where to start. So classroom routines can be commonly associated with just classroom expectations or things that you expect your students to do. However, routines or procedures are a little different because there's that added element of it is something that they're going to be doing all the time. Like they're doing it. It's not just a baseline. This is an expectation. Although for all of your routines and procedures, you should also have expectations as well. So to start off, classroom routines should be clear and consistent. So what that means is they should be clear to all the students what the routine is, how you've set it up, what they're supposed to do during that time, what you're going to be doing during that time. Very clear, very explicit, like this is how we do this routine. This is how we line up for the bathroom every time. This is how we start class off every time, whatever it may be. But they should be clear to every student. You will need to teach them these routines, just like expectations. This needs to be taught to them so that there are no questions from the students what they're supposed to be doing. So explicitly teach them what that looks like. And then depending on what the routine is, you can even model it for them. If you want them to do something a certain way each time, then practice that and model it for them so that they understand this is what you're looking for. So super important and consistent. Routines are routines because they happen consistently throughout the school year or the school day. And along with that, they also need to be consistent. So if you're asking students to line up because we're going to lunch, then this is how we do this every single time so that kids aren't questioning what they have to do when they get into line or how they're getting into the line. They know this is what you do. This also helps with students that like struggle with certain things like this, maybe struggle with transitions or just they struggle to remember like how to do certain things. If you do it the same way every time, then theoretically they're using less brain power to know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And because you do it consistently, it just becomes second nature for them. The second thing to think about is that these are specific to your classroom. There are several routines that I might put in place because I am a middle school English teacher versus if I was a first grade teacher or even teaching high school. And also with the grade level that I teach, there are going to be different routines for elementary versus secondary just because of the nature of those two grade levels. So these are specific to your classroom. So think about things that you know your students are going to be doing on a regular basis that could become routines that you would have to teach them. For example, even though I am a middle school teacher, I still have to take my students to lunch. So I have a routine for how they line up at the door each time and how we walk to the lunchroom. The expectations are the same every time for the entire year. If you're an elementary teacher, you're going to be doing something similar. High school teachers, maybe you don't need to do that. Another example of this would be for elementary level, maybe you have some sort of a morning meeting or you have a way that you start your day, which is very similar to if you're in a secondary ed classroom and you have any sort of bell work or like a beginning of class routine. So some way to start it. There's similar ideas and concepts, but because of your content or because of your grade level, they'll look a little different. The other thing to think about or just kind of remember is this takes time and like planning and reflection. Really think about how you want your classroom to run and what routines you'll need to put in a place for that to run smoothly. For elementary level, it might be simply how do we transition to sit on the carpet. That's going to be a routine that hopefully every day you're doing something like that. And so you need to explicitly teach them like this is how we do this every single time this is how I expect for you guys to be sitting on the carpet, all of the things that would go into that. And then in a secondary level classroom, this could be simply like, how do we leave the classroom? How do we clean up our materials? Because we are not, like, when those group of students leave, another group is coming in. So how do we end our class each day? So just really think about things that would help make your classroom run smoothly. And this will be different for everyone. If you guys want me to make a more specific video, I can do one that's on elementary level or K through 6. I can also do a middle school level, high school, whatever you think would help you. But this is just more of a general video, just talking about and getting you thinking about classroom routines that you might want in your classroom. But if you need more specifics, I'm happy to do that. Or if you message me, I'm more than happy to work with you more one-on-one and figure out what we need to do to help your class be successful. Here are some examples, just real basic, to get you guys thinking about maybe some things that you want to do or put in place in your classrooms. For elementary level, we have the morning meeting, which I already kind of talked about, but maybe you have a routine in place that when kids get into your classroom each day, this is how they do this, and you have a morning meeting with them, that kind of thing. Lining up if you need to transition, and lining up and also transitioning to something else. Then maybe you have a routine for that. Restroom and drink breaks, like when are your drink breaks? When do you let kids use the restroom? Generally with elementary level teachers, the routine really is daily. And so coming up with a good schedule that will allow for like the most effective use of your time. So that would include, when do kids get like a scheduled bathroom break? Or when are they able to get drink breaks? Also with elementary, this could also be secondary as well, depending on how you set up your classroom, but small groups, if you do any sort of stations or small group work where you're pulling not the whole class, but having those small groups, having a routine of how this goes each time, even though you might be doing different things with those small groups, the way that they get into their small groups or the small groups that they're in should be routine, so kids don't really have to think about it. So after the 4th, 5th, 6th time, it's second nature. They know exactly what they need to do. Independent work, this also could be for secondary, but when given a task, what is the routine of how they're expected to work? Or maybe you have some routines in place for how they ask for help when they're supposed to be working independently, or working independent, whatever it may be. And then lastly, I already talked about this kind of with lining up, but transitioning to specials and electives, this can be a high frequent behavior time. And so knowing exactly what students need to do to transition to their specials or to their electives can really help eliminate some of the behaviors that you might see when kids get excited about going to gym or going to art or music, whatever it may be. And then secondary, and again, these lists are more just basic general things that you can do. I have a few routines in my classroom that are very specific to how I wanted to set things up. So this isn't necessarily like, if you're looking at these lists thinking, oh, I'm just going to create routines for each one of these. These are great places to start, but if you have other ones in mind, like, you're not limited to these lists. But for secondary, a lot of teachers, myself included, have a beginning of class routine and an end of class routine. So every day when we come into class, this is what we do. For secondary, I'll just use my classroom as an example. Each time they come into class, they have bell work or bell ringers, but really the bell work that they have in my classroom each day is set out for a specific thing. Mondays, I'm an ELA teacher, we do Morpheme Mondays. they know exactly how they need to go through and put their morphemes in their trackers, because we do that every single week, every Monday. And so by the second or third week, they've got it. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. There's no question about it. Tuesdays, Thursdays, we work on vocabulary, and they have like these games that they go through and review games, and this really helps. And it's almost, I tell them it's like built-in study time. And then on Wednesdays and Fridays, they do this computer program that's called Quill, and it's all to help with their writing, and we found great success with that. And the reason I'm really going through this is what my beginning of the class routine is not that you guys should do it, but it's to highlight that you can really make it however you need it to be. A lot of things, or everything that I just said when it comes to bell work, are things that I felt like my kids needed more time with, or I wasn't hitting as regularly as I would like. And so I put that in my beginning of class routine so that it was very purposeful about, okay, at least once a week we're working on morphemes, which is going to help with our vocabulary. At least twice a week we're working on our vocabulary words. So even if kids aren't studying at home, they're still getting some study time. At least twice a week we're going to be working on Quill, which will help with their writing, because we have a writing unit, but then we have to move on because we don't have enough time to like explicitly teach them writing for the entire year. Because with my class, it's set up where it's reading and writing together. So it's not two separate classes. So that's my beginning of class routine, but you guys can literally do whatever you would like. I know a lot of teachers do journaling, or they'll have them do like Google Forms and like have them answer questions that are kind of like to check for comprehension. So each day they come in, they get on the Google form, they answer the questions for the day, and then it allows the teacher to know if they understood the lesson from yesterday, or if they're understanding the concept or whatever that may be. For the end of class routine, this can be super simple. It's literally, how do we exit the classroom each day? So how do we make sure everything's picked up? How do we make sure everybody has what they need, because we're transitioning quickly and we're not in the class all day. So how do we leave the class the way that we found it? It is also a good time to help have like a soft ending, or have kids do something that's reflecting on the day. So what does that look like for you? Are you going to have them do exit tickets, or have them do something where they're reflecting on what they did for class that day, or what might that be? Also in secondary, this is also common in elementary, but turning in assignments, how are students going to turn in assignments? What's the expectation for that? We also have lining up, which is the same as elementary. How are you going to have students line up if you have your students line up for something? And then also restroom or drink breaks. So how are you going to have them do that? What's the expectation for how they know when they can take a restroom or a drink break, and so on and so forth. So these are just some examples that you could start with, but you're not limited to for your classrooms. I hope this video helped. If you guys have any questions or need any further assistance, don't hesitate to email me or to message me. And I would be happy to actually talk you through how to set certain things up, or if you want to hear more about what I do in my classroom, or more examples of what other teachers do in their classrooms to give you guys some ideas, I would be happy to do that as well.